Hello everybody, how's it all going? Can somebody let me know if they can hear me? That would be fabulous. Old Plantation, hello again. You seem to be on here as much as I am. Right. Okay, so what are we going to do today? Right, I was going to pull apart the Dremel flex shaft, and I was going to show you some of my paintings as well. And I'm going to be working on a monster this week, and it's going to be like this. Well, it's not going to be like this, but this was from a sort of like a project that a other channel puts on. His name is, oh, g'day Claire, how you going? Just warming up into the stream. I've got a coffee and just talking about what I'm going to be carving this week. I'm going to be carving another one of the Monster Bash series, where I choose a random cards from Miscast, who's a YouTuber, and he makes all these cards up, and then I make a carving from the cards that I've drawn, really. So yeah, if you remember, this one I made a long time ago, and I think it was a Monster Bash 2 one, and so yeah, quite happy with that one. Oh, you got some carving done today. All right, awesome. I take it you're doing a relief carving, I think, wasn't it? Sort of like a I can't remember what you said. I'm sure it was a relief carving, a two-dimensional one. So, all right. So I'm not going to be doing any carving today, but I am going to pull apart this. This is a really old Dremel flex shaft. I've had this for probably 4 years now, and I didn't break any of the inner shaft at all. I didn't break anything on it, and it's finally kind of given up. And what I think has happened is when you press the button, it doesn't really stay in. So I think the shaft at the sort of like the rotating shaft going through that way, and the hole that button pushes into will just be worn out. And you can kind of tell because you can't really tighten this up, even with a spanner. What happens will you'll tighten it up, and then you'll be pulling it this way, and then it'll just flick out the button. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I'd like to see a pic of that. That'd be awesome. Try it. Cool. And what else have I been up to? So because it's coming up to Christmas and I make jewelry, I'll show you, like, this is like a third of all the jewelry that I've been making this week. So this is a wooden jewelry that I make, and I put this quite cool finish on it. This one's called a variegated. You know what gold leaf is like? Well, that's gold leaf, but it's sort of they heat it up, so you get that sort of like effect you do on saucepans and all of that kind of stuff. When you get that kind of rainbow effect, and you can they put different temperatures in, so you sort of like might get like a bluer. It's really hard to see on that. A blue effect. Maybe that one is a bit better. A blue effect, and then you get sort of like a red one on that one. And I make these earrings here. So these are quite delicate. That's made out of jarrah. That's probably the only wood you can really make that thin into an earring, into that kind of earring anyway. And these ones are all mahogany, and these have been selling really well actually. The piano key earrings, so I make them out of piano keys. Yeah, so, and that's a guitar string going through the bottom. It's really hard to focus on this thing. All right, so But yes, so that's what I've been up to. Yeah, so it's coming up to Christmas and all, like I sell in shops and all of that, so pretty much just been busy doing that. I'll just put this out of the way. Oh, g'day William, how you going? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm excited to see it as well. Yeah, so I think the flex shafts are really good. So I was kind of wondering, like, I wonder if, they change if, I know, has anyone had problems with these flex shafts, like overheating and all of that kind of stuff? Oh, g'day Janice, how you going? Yeah, so I've never really had a problem with flex shafts overheating. I have got a new flex shaft, and what I did notice is it didn't really overheat in the handpiece, but it overheated in this metal part here. Let's move that light. Yeah, so that metal part there, which you'd kind of understand. And I think Geordie on Carbon Fusion has said about like the grease, that they put too much grease in there, and I probably tend to agree with that. Because what I did with the new flex shaft, what I got the other week was I didn't sort of like hang it upside down or anything. I just sort of took out the inner part of it and then try and find it. Yeah, I just took out the inner part of it, and this is the new one, and just wiped it down. There's still some grease left on there, but I think I did that about 5 times. I just let it heat up, and I'd wipe it down, and then I'd use it again, and it would heat up, and I'd wipe it down again, and I just figured, like, if I just keep on wiping it down, eventually it'll probably get rid of enough that it won't heat up so much. So that's what I did, and I sort of like would turn it around because these can go in either way. There's no specific way. I'm not trying to get grease on my hands. I was going to show you. Okay, so I'll show you the photos. Oh, I'm just reading Claire's comment. I've had trouble with the bigger ones, like Fordham size, but not these. Yeah, So I think sort of like overheating can be caused too by like bending that too much as well. So and not with the Dremel. Claire says not with the Dremel mat. I've had a Witcher pneumatic chisel that I can't use as it gets super hot quickly. I'm not sure what Acron grease is or plantation. I think so. I over this old one that I've had, I never greased it once over 4 years. So I'm not saying don't grease the flex shaft, but in my experience, I didn't really have any problems without greasing it. So I was gonna, before my hands get greasy, I was going to show you the paintings that I have been doing. Well, I did in the past. Just grab those, and I've only got like photographs of them. I'm just got a book here of them. So what you'll notice about them is they're very architectural. So they're quite hard to see, but so this is just a tiny photograph, and how big would this be? This would be about, I'm not sure in feet, about 4 foot by, I don't know, 3 foot, or maybe 5 by 3. And so it's a real sort of like, I guess one of those shuttered windows that you'd find in a sort of Santorini kind of house, Greek house. So that's that one. And this one I did quite a while ago. That one was quite big. I think that one was about 2 meters. So, and there was quite a lot of detail in each of them. So I really like kind of like the architectural kind of houses overseas, those old decrepit kind of buildings. And this one, actually, my sister has got this one. And this one's quite big as well. This one is probably about up to my shoulder. So yeah. And there's a lot of sort of like texture on the walls and all that kind of stuff. This one you can't quite see, but the colours don't really show up. But like here, there's a couple of shutters, and then you're looking through a window out onto the street. Yeah. I don't know, like I just find like certain artists have different motifs, and mine always seem to be staircases and boats to them. Yeah. Yeah, I quite like perspective, Claire. Yeah, I really like that kind of like fooling the eye kind of thing. So yeah, that's another kind of street. Oh, g'day, Clay. How you going? I'm just showing you a few of the old paintings that I used to do. Should go back to them. So I think that's a classic kind of Santorini kind of scene. Yeah, that one was quite cool. This one's more brutalistic kind of that brutal kind of architecture, but it was massive, and it like it was probably, I don't know, 2 meters long. Yeah. So it took me ages to blend that sky as well. I think that's it. Oh, I'm sure I had others. Oh yeah. So I had these kind of like quite kind of bluey kind of themes. They're kind of quite abstract with kind of rusty kind of things happening in them. Yeah. Yeah, the colours are quite cool. I really liked the blues and the oranges and the rusty kind of colours. So yeah, so like stairs were a fascination of mine. Just really love doing stairs. I'll show you something actually. I always get off topic, don't I? So hang on a minute. All right. So I make these little molds and I sell these in shops. But they're tiny little houses. So that one's, you usually make them grey. They're just made out of concrete. So they just sell for a couple of bucks each, but they're quite easy to make. Once you get the mold, which is a polyurethane mold. So I made the original and then I made the mold. And polyurethane is really good for casting concrete because it's so strong, so you can cast it over and over again, whereas silicon is a little bit too kind of like rubbery and soft. So it's very abrasive concrete. So when you're casting it over time, it will degrade the houses. Yeah, they're cool little Monopoly houses. Cool. Okay, so we will move on to carving. You guys can hear me okay? Probably can. You haven't said you can't. So, hang on a minute. Let's get a sleep of coffee. Okay, so that's the new one. I might keep that to one side. Get rid of that brush. I'll go through some of the basics as well, but I'll keep it pretty brief. It's probably not going to be like a super long stream. Okay, I'll leave it there. But yeah, so I'll do a video one day on how to connect up the flex shaft and all of that, but you probably all know that nut goes on there and it's got a square hole in it, and the end of a flex shaft is square at both ends. So you can put it in either way, it doesn't really matter. So I don't recommend pulling apart flex shafts, but I think it's quite interesting to know how they work. Okay, the sound is good, that's good. It's because I don't have the Dremel running. Okay, so let's work on this end. And I'm going to try and get the light right, just so you guys can see properly. Just getting rid of the coffee. Okay, so take it down a bit closer. All right. I always had all of these different kind of Italian making videos. It's quite complicated. All these lights and everything like that. Okay, so let's hang it off the bench now. Okay, so has anyone actually pulled apart one of these? I have, but it was, well, you obviously saw the photo, so I did actually pull it apart and then put it back together. But yeah, so I wouldn't recommend pulling apart things when you don't have to. So I'll just get rid of that bird. So essentially, what is wrong, what I found what was wrong with this is the button wouldn't go down. Well, it would go down, but every time I put a lot of pressure on when I was turning it, it would pop out. Ah, yes, you've pulled it apart several times. So, right, okay, so essentially that spring comes off. A bit of force. Okay, so what you probably didn't see there is this little part comes off here. It's like a collar that holds, you'll see right in there, there's sort of like a, I guess a seam you'd call it, and it goes all the way around, so this is going to pop off like that. So there's that collar there, but there's also a collar at this end. So take off that, and that's the collar there. So they're both the same, and they go in one way, so sort of like the collar is sort of like shaped like that. It goes in like that. So that makes sense. Just find a screw, because you just need a little Phillips here. So I'll undo this. Yeah. Okay, I drink a lot of coffee, William. Yeah. I've just got one of those like stovetop coffee makers, and I just grind my own beans and I just drink it black. I actually drank it black because when I was at art school, we had a fridge there and people would try and buy milk, but it would always go off. So people would just drink black coffee because there's never any milk. Yeah, I keep the broken ones too clear. That's a really good idea. Okay, so those there. And you can see like the flex shaft has come out. I'll just keep it in. So essentially that just pops off like that. And kind of see, trying to make that light a bit better. Okay. So that's just me turning up the light. Okay, that's a bit brighter. Yeah, still on my first, but starting to wear out now. Yeah, I kind of think these kind of things, you know, I'm not sure even where you'd find the replacement parts, to be honest. So, okay, so I'll just show you the flex shaft to start with. A lot of people don't realise in the flex shaft is it's sort of like a spring. So hang on a minute. Get rid of that and that. Okay. So inside the flex shaft is that spring going through, like that, and the inner shaft goes in there and spins around. So I guess if you have got a lot of oil in there, it's not like a bearing, it's going to be causing friction against that spring. So that, so you can still see, like, after 4 years of not oiling it all, it's still kind of greasy, and it should be, because like the grease has got nowhere to go, so it's just going to sort of like stay in there. And yeah, so that goes on to this. Okay, so I'll just show you sort of like, this is the button side. So there's a button. Okay, so essentially the flex shaft goes in like this and goes up to that. It's made out of plastic, that one, on this one anyway. And then the square, I should really learn the terminology. It's coming out. The square part of that goes into the shaft, the falling part now, of the driver, which essentially that's where you put your burrs. So you can see on there, that's where I put that. So that's sort of like will go in there like that, and that. There's a bit of play in that, so probably that's worn over time as well, but it's not too bad. Okay, so I'm just reading Williams' one. Yeah, the spring is essentially a heat sink, and the oil reduces your ability to bleed heat away, and through the oil can store heat very well. This is my thoughts. Yeah, I think so. I think, yeah, and the probably the spring also works as so you don't bend this cable as much, because if it wasn't where you'd wear that cable out pretty quick. So it's sort of like, it's almost like I guess a wash, well, not a washer, but sort of like in a shaft that the cable sits in. Okay, so we're already up to. So yeah, so on this one, you can see, you know, when you're sort of, I'm going to pronounce your name as Linda this week. G'day, Linda, how are you going? Okay, so essentially you can see, try and like focus it there. So that part is where the button goes into. So that's the button that you press, and it goes into that hole there. So you can see what's happened here is, I'm going to try and focus this somewhat. You can see there's sort of just there, it's worn out. So the hole is not sort of round, it's sort of like going out. And that would have been caused by just wear and use. And also, you know, when you're trying to like carve things, also, you accidentally press that button sometimes and you can hear it go, wow, I'm not sure if that's a noise. So, but yeah, so that's what happens there. So I'm quite surprised, like the button hasn't worn at all. That button, the shaft that goes into that is perfect. So I would have thought the edges would have been knocked off that a bit, but it isn't. So, and what I also think is quite interesting in this is, I'll grab this. There's not a lot of grease in here, so it's quite dry. So, and there shouldn't be really, because the flex shaft goes to here, and then the end goes to sort of in there. So there's not going to be grease piling up in here. And this is all plastic, you got to remember. So greasing this part in here is not going to do anything really, because if we look at this, these two round things on here are just bearings really, and so they'd probably have internal grease in them, and they're, after 4 years, they're working perfectly. So there shouldn't be that much grease in there. There's just a little bit of overflow. You can see probably there's a bit of a blob of it, and that's just sort of accumulated down here, where it just would have gone from the flex shaft, from the cable, and just oozed into there a bit. And I wouldn't actually say that would overheat, because it's just sitting there. It's not actually going around anything, so that the handle shouldn't overheat. What I think happens, like what I find, is when the handle feels hot, it's this, and it's virtually this around here, and there could be too much oil, grease in here, but this, because this is plastic, it's not going to transfer the heat too much, but this is going to really transfer the heat, and you tend to hold it like this, so you tend to get that metal bit on there. Oh, Linda, you use graphite? Yeah, I've heard some people use graphite, but I think you'd have to, with graphite, surely you would have to start off with everything dry, like all of your components. You'd have to make sure everything is dry all the time. I'm sure mine has loads of grime in there. If you leave the button off when you put it back together, you can just stick a small screwdriver in the hole to lock it in place. Oh, that's a good idea, Claire. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to do that. I have a spare flex shaft there. So essentially, what Claire's saying is, instead of, I'd have to make sure I take it like, it would have to be sort of like as thin as that bit there, which I think, let's see. So, oh yeah. So I'd probably just use an old diamond burr. Just stick that through, and it would. G'day, Dances with Aardvarks. Right, so I think that's cool. A really cool idea, Claire. You should have a YouTube channel yourself and give these tips out. Right. Okay. So we can put this back together, and we'll give Claire's one a try. Is there any other questions that anyone's got about this? This isn't too bad, actually. There's not too many parts to this, which is quite good. Okay, actually, that one is. Okay, I said they were both the same size, but one of them is actually bigger than the other. So, it's a Geordie tip. Yeah, cool. Right, okay, so let's put this back together. And essentially we'll put that in there. Okay, and don't forget that little I think this little plastic thing just sort of like keeps the cable going in the kind of right direction. It's always fun when you put things back together. This isn't too bad because it's not too many parts. Might just wipe that out. Not too greasy. Does anyone watch your repair shop? I watched that, and I watched that guy with those clocks, and I think, how does he know? But he's been doing it for so long. You know, he pulls apart those clocks, and there's like about 100 parts to them, and he manages to get them all back together. I'm not sure if the repair shop's an English program. I'm not sure if the American watchers actually see it. Okay, so right. Okay. Don't think we need to put. So we're putting this back together without the button. So we'll leave that button out. And so essentially, I don't have to put it together with the flex shaft in, but I'll just show you that that goes like that. And I've got to remember to figure in that one's the bigger one. We'll see. So that one goes there, that one goes in there. Right. Oh, I'll tell you, I think essentially this part here, this is where the button sort of goes on. So that part there is essentially where it springs it back. You get what I mean? Yeah, so it presses it and then it will spring back. Just showing you that. Okay. So look at that. Great bearings in there. Okay. We want to make sure everything is lined up so the seams sort of go in towards each other. And I'll put that collar on. That's what they call it, isn't it? Bit of a tight fit. It's kind of what you want. Okay, so that's the first one on. And the second one. And I'll put that on there because that holds it together as well. Sorry, the end just fell off the table. Okay. So essentially, those back. Yeah, yeah, William, you've got to put it straight back together. Just like that. I was noticing on that repair shop though, he like takes them apart, then he cleans them, and then he puts it back together. So you're able to mix them all up. Whereas I guess that's the fun thing about having cameras these days is you can actually take a photo of things and then have easy reference for things. Yeah, the multi-chuck does get full of dust. I find I give it a whack on a hard surface, just sort of like like, well, I'll just show you. So this is it here, and it's just going to be a loud noise, okay? So there's a bit of dust there. Yeah, I think they're really good. I use them all the time, just because I use so many burrs. I think if you're only using sort of like the flame burr, it's not so critical, but like if you're doing really intricate carvings, you always tend to be like changing over your burrs. So you always tend to be, you want to go fast. And I've actually got 2 Dremels, and I'm gonna set, well, I might actually just put 1 permanent burr in this one. So you can see it in there. It's funny. Right. I'm just saying you can actually see it turning in there. Can't really. Yeah, so you can see the shaft going through there. Yeah, it's better than changing collets all the time. That's what I found, because I like a lot. It's not so much the cut-saw burrs. It's when you're going from cut-saw to sort of like these kind of like diamond burrs, and they're skinnier, and also and they all come in different kind of sizes. So I have these drill bits that I use as well. They're quite handy actually, having drill bits to go on your Dremel. Yeah, Linda. So I use this multi-chuck, so it will essentially take any size up to about, I think, 3.1 millimeters. The only problem with this is I find, like, it says you can finger tighten it, but I'd say a lot of people will agree that I just keep a spanner handy, and it's got because it usually works loose, especially if you're like carving quite aggressively. Whereas I find like you can finger tighten just diamond burrs with it. That's fine. Okay, so right, so we put it back together, and here says put this in. Where is it? Just trying to find. Right, okay. Okay, so I had a bit of a problem there trying. So essentially, because that shaft was stuffed, Claire suggested that you can just do this instead of a button. It's like a bit of a makeshift, obviously. That just pushes on, but it's pretty cool. And so you can just put that on. Grab that. Okay, so it's pretty cool. You can see it will do. Okay, so I just right, that's good to go. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Claire, for that, and Geordie for that tip. That's awesome. I use pliers and try to be careful. Yeah, it does save some dollars. It's always good. Although now I've got 3 flex shafts, I think, because I use this for my business. I got really worried when this one broke, and I thought we were going to go back into lockdown, so I went out and bought another one. And then I thought, oh, one was on special, so I bought that one as well. So I got a couple of spares and 2 Dremels, so that's all good. You can never have too many tools, that's what I say. And I've also ordered, which I'll be getting hopefully this week, is one of those jaw horses. Well, I think it's not, it's called a Triton. It's like a jaw horse, exactly the same thing. So that's pretty cool. You can tape up the hole if you leave it to sit and keep the dust out. Yeah, that's a good idea. Cool. So, typical greasy hands now. Yeah. So I think that's about it for today, really. It's 41 minutes. That's all right. Has anyone got any questions or any suggestions on what I could carve next? I've got a few ideas myself. I'm never short of ideas, but I'll try and come up with some carvings soon. So I'm going to carve that monster bash that I did a while ago, but a different one. Yeah, the Triton jaw horse. I bought the extra large one as well because it just looked more robust, and it's coming in the mail. So, and because I do a lot of that kind of spoon carving and all of that kind of stuff, and I find holding down the wood really problematic. Sort of, and you kind of want to do things kind of fast. You kind of like want to move around the work as well, and I kind of think those jaw horses you can really do that really easily. So that's coming in the mail, and I've got some more waxes coming. I've got a mahogany coloured wax, you know, that dark oak that I use, like that one. Yeah, ready for the chainsaw. Yeah, we'll buy one. I'm buying all the supplementary stuff around it first, and then we'll buy. I want to get, probably the next thing after that. I might get a die grinder. Then you got to buy all the 1/4 bits to go in it. So it's all money, isn't it? Carving's money. It's a lot of money carving, but it's that's what you do. It's kind of fun. It's what if. And you get sort of like one life, and if you like carving, you should probably spend a bit of money on carving. Yeah, I'll take it up. I'll probably just use this I'll just decide on one bird that I'm going to use in this. Maybe just the flame burr and just keep it exactly for that, and use my other one for all the other birds. Because I've got one of those, what are they called? Workstations. I just hang my one on that. I won't shine it up there because it lights up there. But those workstations are good. I use it for drilling holes. I wouldn't probably recommend buying one for if you're a carver, because essentially it's just a glorified sort of Dremel holder. Like the actual. This thing's pretty good. I've got a drill press as well. Squash that as well. But yeah, it's really good for sort of like small projects like model making and all of that kind of stuff. So if you make really small stuff, that's good for that. If you do woodwork, making a carving support like a field, one pays dividends. Like a field, one pays dividends. I'm not familiar with that actually. That's the Vertex. I use an angle grinder more than a die grinder. Yeah, I've got an angle grinder. I haven't got many attachments for it. I've only got those Arbortect, the ball gouge and the precision set, which I probably use the ball gouge more than I use precision the smaller one. And but that's probably, I wonder, it's not maybe the tool's fault, it's more maybe the style of carving that I do. So I do quite small stuff. So if I was to do larger stuff, I might use the smaller. For those, I'll just go and grab it. For those who don't know what I'm talking about. Whoops. So this is, oh, hang on a minute. So that's the ball gouge, and I really rate this thing. That's the one that company ripped off my video for. I got millions of views too. Anyway, that was the one that you brought to my attention, Claire. So this is the, I wonder where the other bit's gone. Should be over there somewhere. So this is the mini kind of ball gouge. Hang on a second. Sorry about this. All right. Sorry, still on my die grinder. I mean, not my die grinder, angle grinder. There. Okay, so this is the big ball gouge, and that's the mini ball gouge. Oh, Linda, yeah. Chainsaws do look dangerous. Yeah. So that's the mini ball gouge, which I haven't used a lot, and it comes like this, that bit there comes off this bit, so you can put that bit on. Or this one. This one's quite nice. It's sort of like a cutter. But because I do such small work, I found this one the best, and I sort of like will carve out bowls and all of that kind of stuff, and it makes really nice sort of things in there. So you know, because it's especially really good for, because like if you're making something like this, you obviously can't turn it on a lathe, so you can get in there with a ball gouge. Yeah, I believe so, Claire. I think there's two types of attachment throughout the world on an angle grinder. I think this is one that's called an M14. You just have to go onto the Arbortech site and just check whether maybe the European one is different. But out of the two, I would use this one the most. But yeah, so they just go on the angle grinder and turn. It's like that. And they're pretty easy to use. They're quite safe. Well, you know, it's like any tool. It's as safe as you kind of like, if you're a reckless person, it's probably not safe. Yeah. What I like about this too is it's a cutter, it's not like an abrasive, kind of like a cut saw disc or anything. So when you're taking things out, it just leaves a really nice smooth finish. And like this was 160 New Zealand dollars, so that would probably be, I don't know, maybe 100 American dollars. Never quite sure. Anyway, so it is expensive, but I've had this for quite a while, and you can actually spin the blade and you can buy a replacement blade as well. And I've never bought a replacement blade yet, and I've had it for a few years, so I think that's pretty good value. You don't want to hit a nail though. I haven't. There's one chip out. You probably can't see it. The tiny chip out there. It doesn't seem to affect it too much. Just having a look back at the comments. I have that big Arbortech. I'm still figuring out how to do better with it. Yeah, I did a video on it. It's honestly, it does take a bit to get used to, but once you kind of get it, I think it's all about sort of like really bringing in the angle grinder into your body and sort of like really stabilizing it and going quite slowly and going in sort of like a downward trajectory, sort of like going that way. It'll spin that way, I think. Yeah. I always get confused. I think it spins that way. Anyway, you need the trajectory to go sort of like downwards into the wood so it doesn't rip it out. And when you're going, I tend to always go on an angle, not go down straight down. Because when you go straight down on this one, it doesn't actually cut that well. Well, they made it like that so you can actually make a flat bottom and a cut, whatever. Regular chainsaws are dangerous even when you know what you're doing. I've used them for years. I've actually never really used a chainsaw that much. I think I've cut wood up once with one. I disagree. He had his elbows out and was cutting with his body in the kickback, so someone must have had an accident or something. I'm not sure. Are they just attachments? Yeah, explain that. That's cool. Where did you see that? He wasn't the only one. Angle grinders are even made to use with a chainsaw blade. That's just foolish. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Those sort of like chainsaw sort of bits that go on there. Yeah, they just look crazy. Die grinder is absolutely the grandfather of Dremel. It's 1/4 inch cut saw bits that would just disappears like magic. In fact, the number one reason injury is thinking you're smarter than you are and relaxing your cautiousness. Yes, that's probably true with everything. Yeah, I like that idea. Oh, I agree with you, Linda, but maintain that they can be used safely. Yeah, so ball gouge wants to go slow, try and force it and it will grab too hard. That was my mistake early on. Yeah, it's got that kind of feeling. You sort of like sometimes I find like this is easy when going in like this, but getting lower into it will start to like grab. But I really like it. Yeah. Okay. So on that note, I think I will say thank you for everybody for coming and joining in on my regular live stream, and I will do some carving next week probably. I'm not sure what I'll carve, but we'll do that, and I hope everyone has a great day and enjoy whatever they're carving. Okay, we'll see you later. Bye everybody.